Let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. I am Sarah Feldman from the Consortium for Service Innovation. I'm the Director of Member Engagement, always here to help our members and wider community with any resources that we have available that could help you. I have several of the consortium staff also on the call today that you'll be hearing from, Kelly specifically, and Jennifer Morgat is on. She's our Community Success Manager. She's the one where if you email support@serviceinnovation.org, a real person, Jennifer, gets that email and will respond to you and help you out. So glad to have you all with us today. We're going to talk through some examples of training. I'm really excited to have some special guests. I'll introduce you to them in a little bit to tell us about how they have incorporated training into their teams. We're also going to be talking about quite specifically the training options that we have, that we offer as the consortium. And as much as we want to show those off specifically, I also want to just set the sort of the foundation for your mindset that these are all just examples of different ways to approach training, and in your environments for your teams, what is needed for you all to succeed, a blended learning, a mix of formats and styles, and onboarding versus upskilling. There's so much opportunity to leverage training to get your teams more aligned and rowing in the same direction and all of that. So I hope you'll also use some of the specific examples we give as just inspiration for things you could do in your organization. Our agenda for our time together today, I'm going to talk through a couple things, some overview and context setting about what we have available. Then what I'm most excited about, a little chat with each of our featured guests about their training examples and a little bit more about what we have to offer. And then want to save a good amount of time for Q&A in case there's anyone on the call that wants to just sort of brainstorm or ask our featured guests or anyone else on the call about ideas about how to get things going, how to, iterate or optimize their training, what's going to work best for their teams. We'd love to be a sounding board for you for that today. So quick preview of our featured guests who we'll be hearing from very soon. Excited to hear from these lovely ladies today. We'll have Mitzi from PAR Technology, Michelle from Celonis, Andrea from Veeam, and Kelly from Consortium for Service Innovation. Couple quick comments about our training and why it exists in the first place. Friendly reminder that we are a nonprofit think tank, and member companies, their dues are their primary source of our funding. So thank you, as always, to all of our members who not only are the primary source of our funding, but they're the reasons any of our internet intellectual property exists. It's why KCS exists, why it's been evolving for 30 plus years, intelligent swarming as well. And this is why you will see this phrase sprinkled throughout anything online where we talk about our training, because we're passionate about this, because the training really reflects the ongoing relationship with our members and the methodology, and it is the latest and greatest of what we know about how to do this well, and our training reflects that. And if you've heard about a little principle called demand driven in KCS, our training is demand driven as well. It's what our members and the wider community have asked for helping their teams get on the same page and get aligned for doing KCS the right way in their organizations. What we offer is a mix of self-paced online training. These options are available on demand in our LMS. And then, of course, several instructor-led workshops. These happen both virtually and in person by our amazing training partners. Kelly's going to talk through these in a little bit more detail later, but we have a bunch available. And the sort of motivation for this event is we're really excited that earlier this year we launched a brand new LMS platform that we're really excited about. It's mostly the same training, but in a brand new interface, much more intuitive and much better streamlined e-commerce checkout on our website. So it's easier than ever to get that training that you need. And then we have tons of other options if you want to have the training hosted in your own LMS or bulk purchases. That's where you email Jennifer, email support@serviceinnovation.org, or we'll have some links to share with you where you can always ask for more help if needed. Related to our training, these are a couple years old now that we've released this option, and we're really proud of these certification badges. And what we're most proud about is how proud our certification earners are. Our platform or digital badge platform is Credly, in case you're curious. And our earners share on LinkedIn mostly 75% of the time, which is far exceeds the platform average of 47%. So we just think that's a great testament to how excited folks are to earn these certifications and share them. And just also a friendly nudge of these are the types of things to look for to try and encourage excitement about training in your organization. How can you help get folks on your teams not just doing training because it's obligatory, but because they're really excited and proud to know and contribute to the team. We'll share this page with you where you have links to learn more of different ways to consider curriculum paths of what we have, learn more about the workshops or the certification options, and some discounts for consortium members. But we can come back to that later. Now I want to get to what I said I'm most excited about, which is hearing from our featured guests. So first, I'd like to ask Mitzi to hop off mute and say hello and introduce yourself. Where do you work? How long have you been there? What are you up to at PAR?
Hello. So I'm Mitzi Newland. I'm the knowledge manager at PAR Technology, and today is actually my 26th anniversary with PAR. So I've worked in a lot of different departments across PAR, but interestingly, because I came up through support when I started as a level 2 in like, oh my gosh, 2004, I think. Maybe, yeah, 2004, 2005, we were rolling out a new knowledge base, which was apparently, someone told me later, like a super early version of KCS. And then unfortunately, we kind of like veered away from that, right? So yeah, yeah, I've been involved in just support and then eventually training and then knowledge exclusively for about the past 4 or 5 years now.
Amazing. Happy work anniversary. That
Thank
is
you.
an amazing milestone. You don't even hear that milestone existing very often anymore. That's very special.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about how you have incorporated KCS or other training into onboarding and upskilling for your knowledge workers?
Sure. Yeah, we got really lucky at the beginning because everybody like up was involved in implementing KCS. So we had a lot of really high level buy-in because we had a director come in who was like super into KCS, was like, we're buying the training, we're buying all the things, we're putting it in our own LMS, everybody's getting certified, right? And then he brought on a really great director, Jacob Watts, who also was like super into it. Like, we had just a really great adoption and rollout. So we have our onboarding training. So when we get new technicians, they go through the LMS training. They do the digital transformation, which I think is called something new in the new kind of iteration of training, and they do fundamentals. And then we come in, I think it's in the training plan, it's like the next day, and we do an hour-long course to introduce them to the platform and how to search and how to mark things as helpful. And because we have that reference to the methodology, we can also say, hey, this is why we ask you to search early and search often, or search even if you know the answer, or mark thumbs up. We can really give them that why. Like this is why. It's not just because we're making you do something, right? And then as I bring on new coaches, then we usually try to get them fundamentals certified. So they get the training, they get the Credly badge, they do the whole thing. And I also just brought someone new onto my team last year, and she got KCS practices certified as well. So she was super excited about that. And we used, like official training to do that as well.
Lovely. That sounds great. So an important mix of the sort of methodology training that we offer to set the common foundation of the terms, but of course you have additional training that's about like design, like how we of course adapt KCS to our environment. They have to learn how to actually practice KCS in your environment. But I love how you said that they understand the why behind that. I want to ask you one more question based off of a comment you made when we chatted the other week, which is, as we now know, you've been at PAR for 20 years. You've been involved or with knowledge at PAR for 20 years. And you said there were many times it tried and failed and it didn't stick or it didn't work, but in the last few years it has. So what do you think has made the difference?
Yeah, I mean, the big difference, it's KCS, right? We had two knowledge authors. I was one of them in that kind of old style traditional knowledge program where we're trying to write everything and it's this huge bottleneck because either we don't understand the product or we don't have time, right? So yeah, just really that piece, the licensing and the people who use the knowledge should be the ones authoring the knowledge. That was like a huge piece of it. I mean, tooling as well, right? Like the platforms we were trying to use were just terrible. So like again, having that upper level buy-in and being able to like pick a platform that really worked and that was already like set up to work with our methodology was really important as well. So yeah, we had a really good start to that piece. But yeah, it was really KCS that, you know, we had been kind of beating our heads against the wall for probably 4 or 5 years trying to make it work for our new product. And it was those two pieces, which once we implemented them, I was like, oh my God, of course. Like this makes so much sense now that we're doing it. Why weren't we doing it this way the whole time?
That's amazing. Yeah, the structure, the inherent buy-in from the knowledge workers because they're a part of it. And you mentioned once or twice the executive buy-in, their support is so, so important, right? To making it stick around the organization. One, for having the resources you need. Sounds like that was a big pivot that was important. And also just reverberating the message of this is how we do our work and why. So, so important. We hear that all the time.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mitzi.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear from Michelle. If you can pop off mute and say hello.
Hello. So yeah, just to give you a brief introduction, thanks Sarah and the consortium for having me, by the way. I'm the head of knowledge management here at Celonis, and I sit within the customer support organization, where when I joined about 3 years ago, started doing some knowledge, but no real process and no, nothing in mind in terms of getting everybody to actively participate, right? It was kind of there. Some were using it, some were creating, some were doing a great job of that, but we really needed to put KCS and enter me, all right? So I came on board at Celonis, and that was really the core goal of what we were looking to do was implement KCS, which we have been doing, first getting the right technology on board to help us with KCS, and then getting everybody trained and up and running on that. And our training, did of course incorporate, the KCS practices. Of course it had to. And then on top of that, how they actually did KCS and the workflow. So kind of blending both of those worlds. And we are at the point today where in just a couple of weeks, we are ready to launch our brand new self-service portal, which I'm super excited about, because obviously that's where we're going to be able to unlock all of the value of what we're doing with knowledge base. So I'm excited because I know it's coming. I know the team is actively looking forward to it as well, but I don't think they don't know what they don't know just yet. So I'm excited to see what the overall response is going to be once we are up and running and go live. But it's been a roller coaster of 3 years, a lot of work, a lot of effort going into it. I'm just working on our KCS coach program has just recently launched as well. So coaching is up and running. Our KDE program is starting to get going as well as we do the final prep for self-service, but then also getting them into, as we get all the metrics back with what's happening once self-service is open, how do we drive further case deflection and really get the value in the knowledge base. So super excited of what's to come, but it's been a roller coaster over the last few years.
That's exciting. Exciting milestones ahead. I'm going to ask you about coaching more in a minute, but first, could you share somewhat specifically how you've incorporated training, both consortium training or otherwise, into onboarding and upskilling for your knowledge workers?
Absolutely. So, what I actually did here was we took a look at the training when I first came on board, and obviously the knowledge piece was missing. So I built a training on KCS that went through, high level overview of what it is we're looking to do, what benefits we're looking to drive at Celonis, what actually is KCS, right? Briefly covering solve and evolve loops, things like that. Gave them the KCS 101, if you will. So that's a requirement for anybody on the team to go through that training for new joiners when they start, and also, every so often we want to refresh people's skills. So, we have some of that training. We also have incorporated the KCS principles in every webinar, every training session that we do, and I run them continuously. So whether it is on the process, whether it is on how to write a good knowledge base article, what do things mean in the knowledge base? We're constantly holding sessions like that to help everybody and give everybody the tools and the skills so they can truly get to publisher and beyond, right? Because that's the one thing that I've always said to everybody: you have the ability to be a KCS publisher. It's within you. We want to develop and bring out those skills. And one side of that is making sure they know the big picture. And then pulling in more of the consortium training with our KCS coaches and our knowledge domain experts, which are both required to go through the KCS 3-day workshop, right? The certification workshop. So we've pulled that in for both coaches and KDEs, and the coaches will go through the 2-day coach development workshop as well. So, kind of a sampling of both. But the one point I wanted everybody to understand within the organization was, yes, they can hear me talk about KCS, and you guys all know I can talk day in and day out about KCS, right? But at the end of the day, I wanted them to understand the importance of the certification and the end-to-end that it gave them, but also the industry recognition that came along with it. So that in itself generated a huge amount of excitement for people that I was asking to step into a coaching role, because we saw the potential there for them as coaches. And then also as a knowledge domain expert, right? Talking to our L2s across the customer support organization, that had that level of expertise and had the interest in the knowledge, right? And said, look, you're a prime case to be a KDE, but I want you to be a KDE with all the skills behind you. And what that meant was an end-to-end view of what KCS was, every single picture, every piece of the puzzle, everything that went into it. So they truly, truly deeply understood what it was that we were looking to do and achieve and how everything comes together. So it's been an important element to getting us to the point where we are today.
Lovely. Yeah, great blend of that intro training that you talked about, and then the sort of the systematic additional training with the more in-depth workshops. The certifications go with it. I think that's great. I do want to ask you about a quote. I'm going to paraphrase something you said in our pre-event chat, which is, don't expect effective coaches without the training, without properly training the coaches, and don't bother training anyone on anything without a coaching program. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
It's true when you think about it, right? So, we all know, those of us who are intimately familiar with KCS, right? There's a huge difference with people's productivity when you add coaching to training, right? And, we saw that here firsthand, right? We trained people very early on because they were excited to know, what's this KCS thing we're talking about? But we were still going through the tools evaluation. We were still looking at bringing on, a KCS knowledge base so that we would be able to effectively implement KCS. But it was a little bit too early, right? So, these are things that when you talk to people, they of course remembered all the principles, but there's something to the coaching plus the training, right? To kind of bring that all together to really enable them to turn around and apply what they learned in training, right? Through that coaching. But then on top of that, right, with coaches, asking people to step into a role as coach and not giving them that in-depth training, both on KCS, both on coaching skills, but then kind of leading them through, what am I looking at? What does this all mean from a KCS perspective? If someone is creating duplicate articles, how do I coach to that? Like, how do I actually get in and stop that behavior from occurring when we just don't know? And first things first is, we provide them with the skills to know, what is the underlying behavior? Is it searching skills, right? Is it attitude? Is it behavior, right? What is it that needs to change? So really important to coach both on both sides. And yeah, I firmly believe that, right? If you're not going to coach people appropriately, or train people appropriately rather, for the role that they hold, how are they successful? How do you lead them towards success in that particular role? And coaching is, I've said this time and time again to my team, it's absolutely a critical enabler. When we have coaching in place, when people, are solidifying the right behavior, they're creating high quality articles, and it becomes second nature. How do you get there? How do you get there as fast as you possibly can, so that you start to see all of that value come back with the extra time that you are spending to get content into the knowledge base?
Wonderful. Couldn't say it any better. Thank you for elaborating. I do have one additional follow-up question for you based off of what I know about your experience. Because you've been a certified trainer for many, many years, you've taught. I wonder if you even know how many times you've taught the practices workshop. But quite specifically, in-person practices workshop versus virtual. I know you have a lot of experience with both. I assume that there are pros and cons for either. Can you speak a little bit about your experience and when and why folks might want to opt for one versus the other?
More pros and cons, and this was an interesting conversation that we started to dive into as well, because it's really very interesting, and I found a difference where if you have a company training where you're pulling members of the team, the collaboration that happened in person was amazing. And I had recently completed 4 separate sessions of both the KCS Practices Workshop and the Coaches Workshop in 4 of our locations around the world. And I will tell you, the in-person collaboration and excitement that was generated there was something that I have not seen in the virtual sessions. The virtual sessions, when I've run those, are we're typically across multiple people from different companies. So there was that collaboration, that need to collaborate, because they didn't know the folks in the room. So the collaboration was happening during the class, whereas where I had that across the same company, it wasn't necessarily happening, right, in the actual trainings online. And then, of course, you have the challenge where you have people from different time zones that are attending a virtual session, and you're trying to account for everything there. So, it's, to me, I've made, I like to do them both ways. I do find the ones to be in person to be more of my favorites, to be quite honest, just because, you can open up and just have that ongoing conversation. People feel more inclined to jump in when they don't have to unmute themselves. So, I do definitely do them both ways based on what our needs are, but absolutely have kind of made that 360 to say, truly enjoy from a instructor perspective, in person more, honestly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, certainly can be worth the investment if you have the resources to get folks together in person. But of course, you have many years of successful students with the virtual format. And if that's what your option is in terms of getting folks together, that's a good option too. And we know both methods have been taught countless times. So
For sure. Yeah.
wonderful. Thanks for sharing your perspective on that. Andrea, excited to hear from you now. Can you unmute and say hello and introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity to participate in today's call. Yeah, so I've been with Vim for the last 8 years now. My role at Vim is actually manager for the technical support department, but since last year I also took upon the role of the KCS lead. So we actually started implementing KCS only last year. So we are at the beginning of our road in KCS. Before that, we did had some sort of knowledge management in-house. So we did had our own wiki, and we also tried to keep our cases as detailed as possible and as documented as possible, but of course nothing as structured as KCS. So since last year, we tried to implement KCS in our day-to-day work. And yeah, actually, when we first started, we knew that for KCS to actually take a hold, our KCS leads, but also the first wave of coaches needed to have a deep understanding of it. So that's why we also prioritize getting them certified in KCS practices. So the certification actually wasn't just a formality for us. It was a way to ensure that they had the knowledge and also the confidence to lead by example, to guide the others, and also to maybe uphold the consistency and how we applied KCS across the team. But yeah, at the same time, we also concluded and we wanted to make sure that each and every engineer that was coming into the waves started with the KCS fundamentals training. As you also mentioned about it, we also had the opportunity for them to pass the training online on our platforms. So they just had they had the time to pass it on their own pace, and maybe also ask questions to their peers. But of course, in the end, they also had the deadline that they need to pass and watch the training till a specific day before they started the actual enrollment in the wave. But yeah, we just wanted to make sure that before they go hands-on, that everyone had a clear grasp and understanding of the basic principles of KCS. Yeah.
Amazing. And I wanna brag about some things you told me when we
Mhm.
chatted last week. Because I think it would be hard to argue that training wasn't a big part of what you've been able to accomplish in a year. You've said it's been about a year since you've been rolling out KCS, 800 knowledge workers. Is that
We
correct?
yeah, we finished adding everyone to the wave, so we now have 800 plus knowledge workers added, yeah, to
Yeah.
KCS.
So in 800 knowledge workers in 1 year, there's different versions of KCS adoption, out there, all different flavors, but 800 knowledge workers in a year is pretty impressive, I think most people would say. So well done to you and your team, and can't imagine that training wasn't a big part of that. And you told me some great adoption numbers and activity adoption numbers in terms of in some cases you have 80% attach rates, 90% AQI scores. So you're not just rolling it out and going through the motions, but folks seem
Yeah.
to really be getting it and doing it right, doing it for the right reasons. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
well well done to you and your team, and I'm glad training has been a part of it. Can you also describe additional training you created specifically for coaches?
Yep, yeah, indeed. So we also well, I guess in the beginning we came to the conclusion that we needed some extra training that maybe was more tailored to our specific needs. So first we started to create our own KCS training. I stated that was more tailored into PIM specifics. So we started with that one, and just we wanted to add the information into why we choose to implement KCS and how it fits to our day-to-day work, maybe how to create KCS articles from where, or how to search better and how to interpret the different results or track your progress. And after we created that training, we've just asked ourselves, well, we had really great success with that training, why not start creating the same training for the coaches? And that's when we also created the training specifically for the coaches, where we touch on how they should run the PAR, how they should do an AQI, how they should start discussing the results with their coaches. And we really noticed a big difference after implementing and after everyone just passed the training. But we all know that the training, I guess, is not the single point of how we can move forward with KCS. So that's why outside of the training, we wanted to bring some Q&A sessions. And we had several different Q&A sessions where, for example, some of the sessions, coaches and coaches participated together and they shared their feedbacks. And we just wanted to make sure that we create some sort of a space for knowledge sharing and collaboration. But then we also concluded that it might be beneficial for us to conduct separate Q&A sessions for coaches only, where they could discuss different aspects of their day-to-day role. And we also hosted dedicated sessions for them to go deeper into their responsibilities and challenges. We also conducted live exercises, so we've reviewed articles and we did AQI together. We also analyze cases and run some PAR reviews together so that they fully understand how things should be done. They also had the opportunity to ask their questions and also share their feedback. And actually, we also tried to analyze how different engineers were applying KCS on a daily basis. And we also went ahead and discussed ways on how we could improve their approaches to KCS. So overall, we really received great feedback from the coaches, and we also have our weekly KCS Council calls where we have also coaches that are attending, but knowledge workers as well. And we are still getting really nice feedback from them as well to continuously improve our KCS implementation.
Amazing. Love hearing all the ways that you are doing the training, setting that foundation, and the way that you're reinforcing it. You know, Michelle was talking about how important coaching is to reinforce the behavior learned in training, but all the different ways and opportunities folks have to really get experience and competency with this new way of working. So important. And thank you. Results sort of speak for themselves in terms of it being well worth the effort. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you also.
Kelly Murray, can I ask you to come off mute and say hello and introduce yourself?
You betcha. Hi, I'm Kelly Murray. I'm the Chief Engagement Officer here at the consortium. I will be celebrating 14 years in April, which seems insane to me. I do a lot of capturing and structuring around the conversations that we have in the consortium, and I am a KCS certified trainer who is also the caretaker of the KCS certified trainer community right now. KCS training is one of my very favorite things to talk about. And I think, as many of you know, the methodology is created by capturing the experiences of members. And so that is made available through to the public for the most part through Creative Commons licensing. The training that the consortium has developed, which I'm going to talk a little bit about today, is all based on that methodology. And so it's all based on real life experience. And many of the trainings have been around for lots of years and so have evolved over time as the environments in which we're training have evolved over time. I think the reason to do training and the reason especially to perhaps leverage some of the consortium designed training is members really wanted a consistent and universal way to understand who has a deep understanding of KCS. So the trainings that we've developed came before the certifications that we've developed. And now there are two sort of different types of training available and a handful of certifications, as Sarah pointed out earlier. So we have a collection of self-paced online training. These are 4 separate sessions, lessons, teachings, courses is what we call them, that are available through our learning management system. None of them are longer than about an hour. And they really aim to set context for why we're doing these things. So we have the Defining Digital Transformation course, which really talks about, it sets the groundwork for why it is so important to capture knowledge at the moment of interaction so that we can deliver it in ways that customers and requesters are currently looking for it. So that's a really nice sort of baseline setting. This is what's happening. This is why we're doing these things. KCS V6 fundamentals is largely about the solve loop. So what those activities are when we talk about capture and structure and reuse and improve, what that looks like. And then managing in a knowledge-centered workforce is a course that is really designed to help managers understand what's different about the activities that their teams are doing when they're doing knowledge-centered service. So that's a really nice sort of way to help managers understand what's changed. And then intelligent swarming fundamentals is sort of that baseline of the 3 practices of intelligent swarming and what kinds of environments it might work well in. So that's a nice sort of introduction to intelligent swarming and helps you think through how you might put some structure around collaboration. That's really what that's about. So those are all available. They are all self-paced. They are really lay the groundwork. People who take the V6 Fundamentals online training course are very well positioned to take the KCS V6 Fundamentals certification exam. And lots of people do, and we love to see those things come through on LinkedIn because people are pretty proud to be able to say, yes, these are the things that I know and understand about KCS. So we also have this collection of instructor-led training. These courses have been really tended to over time in terms of being designed to help people understand, especially in the case of the V6 Practices Workshop, this is the dream state of KCS. This is sort of everything we know about the methodology and how to implement it to make it successful. The KCS V6 Practices Workshop prepares you for the KCS V6 Practices certification, and that is a really robust, very thorough certification. It was designed with the help of a psychometrician so that we can really understand that people who pass that exam have a very deep understanding of KCS that would allow them to go perhaps adopt it or help them apply the principles. I think Michelle was mentioning that her KDEs and coaches go through that workshop. And when you're in a position to sort of make decisions and influence your program, having this baseline, very thorough practices workshop can be extremely helpful so that people are all making decisions based on the same things. The coach workshop is actually owned by a woman named Beth Haggett, but many of the KCS certified trainers are certified to teach this coach workshop. And when you, I love hearing the conversations about coaching and how important it is. It really helps if you have folks who have been in your organization for a while and who think they might be able to just outlast whatever this KCS change is, coaching removes that option from them. So we hear stories about people who are like, oh yeah, I had folks who came and attended the training and then thought that that wasn't really relevant to them because they have been through trainings like this before and then they never heard about it again. And it's a coach program that really helps people understand that we're serious about this and we're going to come ask you about it, and we're invested in really capturing and structuring our knowledge so that we can reuse it. So the coach workshop really helps people have the tools to be excellent coaches and understand how to make those coaching sessions the most valuable to the people who are being coached. So that's a really lovely workshop. The knowledge domain analysis workshop is custom to a specific organization because we use real data to help KDEs, knowledge domain experts, get trained up into what those activities will be. So the knowledge domain analysis workshop is very exciting because you learn a lot about what's going on in your organization. It can also be very disorienting because you learn a lot about what's going on in your organization. This is the place where all of a sudden things are exposed. When you think that the solve loop is cooking right along, and you start pulling up those most frequently used articles, or you start taking a look really at the new versus known ratio, you discover some things that perhaps many times previously you thought were just anecdotal. Now all of a sudden you can see the trends and patterns that really need some attention, which is, again, exciting and disorienting sometimes. And then the KCS V6 leadership workshop is really a manager's workshop. So this is very much sort of some baseline information about KCS and what teams are doing with KCS, and then how to approach a KCS implementation as a manager, looking at sort of what's changed, how we might assess value, helping managers practice their own coaching skills. It can be very helpful for that transition. Sometimes the transition for managers is actually harder than the transition for the people doing the solve loop work. So that's interesting. What else can I tell you about training, Sarah?
I don't know. Great. Yeah.
I
you
remember,
tell me,
I can
sorry.
answer my own question. So we have a network of delightful training partners. Michelle has been an external, we call them external KCS trainers. Michelle's also been an internal KCS trainer. And so there are options in terms of publicly available workshops for instructor-led training. There are options in terms of private workshops. You can hire external trainers to do a private workshop for your organization. And there's also an option to be an internal trainer or have an internal trainer who is someone who is at your company, who goes through the entire process of becoming a certified trainer. And then there's an unlimited use license that companies can have, which offers access to all the consortium's training materials that you can then use in an unlimited way internally.
Yes, well said. And we do have a page dedicated to KCS training that describes, at least at a high level, a bunch of the things that Kelly said in terms of who this is for and why you might consider it, or when in your KCS journey you might consider it and for whom. So lots of extra information throughout our website to find and be guided to what might be best for you. And like we've said, we'll say it forever. Don't hesitate to reach out to us at any time. Always happy to get on a Zoom or over email, chat with you about possible options that might be best for you. What else, friends? Any questions from our attendees? I saw some chatter about PAR, AQI scores and what to expect. Any training specific questions?
This is Vicky. I have a question about the internal trainer certification.
Great.
I was looking into doing that myself, but I'm not sure about the requirements for that. I like co-teach with someone else. How does that work if I'm the only person that knows KCS here?
Who's answering that question? Is it
Kelly,
me?
I think you're answering.
Excellent. So the co-teach you would do with I would say most folks do a co-teach with an external certified trainer. So you would reach out to somebody who could come and co-teach a workshop within your organization so that you can see it while you learn it. So that's kind of like step one of, first you take a practices workshop, then you co-teach with somebody who I'd be happy to talk to you about sort of options in terms of who can do that co-teach and how you might set it up. And then you go through the rest of those steps, which I think is, there's a little bit of an assessment with your co-teacher, and then you take the exam.
Okay, so the attending the practices workshop would be attended again because I've done it in the past.
Then you're all set.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So step one is attend the practices workshop. And then I guess step two is get practices certified. And then step three would be a co-teach.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Or if anyone else has an example of how they're using training successfully at their org. I can tell you that when we had folks register for this event, we asked if they're using training in their orgs. I made a little pie chart. 79% of folks who responded said, of course, they're using training for KCS training for either onboarding or upskilling. A few said no. One friend said sometimes. And I will, in support of the folks who said no, this is just sort of aggregated, but it was an open text field and many of them said, no, but I know I should be, or we're looking to ramp it up. So I think hopefully some of those no folks are on the call today and getting some inspiration and motivation to get those programs going. And well done to most, sounds like most people already have some things in place, but hopefully you've learned some additional ideas, ways to enhance it based off of our samples today.
Can we get a peek at the new platform, the new training place that you all?
I can show you the new platform. Thank you for asking. So first, this is our new e-commerce checkout. And so much more streamlined here to pick what you want to add if you're buying for yourself. Let's say you want to add the fundamentals and course, which is what I've just added there, and the exam. And then I could check out a couple clicks, e-commerce checkout, all good that way. Or if you are buying for a team, much easier here to add multiple items to your cart, however, whatever variety you need of the courses and the exams, and a quick checkout. And we have information right here about additional options. If you really are a large team, if you're a consortium member, there's some different or more optimal ways to purchase from us. So details here, and of course, one click to get in touch with us for any additional guidance. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second while I queue up the new platform.
And I'm going to do just like 1 second of filler while you do that, if you'd like, which is, I think that one of the things that is really tempting to lean on when we think about training for our organizations is I want to train you about what you need to do, right, with this new whatever it is that we're training about. And if I can offer some unsolicited advice, spending some time really thinking about and over communicating the why we're doing this, I think really helps that be sticky for people. And I also think, while I'm offering unsolicited advice, that if you focus a little bit on the why as you're thinking about how you're training folks in KCS, also thinking about how you might follow up with them about the things that have happened because they have XYZ, is a thing that I think that we could be thinking about a lot earlier. One of the things that members are talking about these days is how much sooner they wish they had started Evolve Loop work in terms of demonstrating even just those small wins about, because we did these KCS activities, we are able to see XYZ or affect XYZ or deliver X number of known issues to development to fix, or whatever those little wins are. So connecting it from, in the training, this is why we're doing this, to here's our early outcomes, can really help people understand and sustain those activities over time. Thank you.
Kelly, if I could expand on that. So my training plan here for our KCS training. So we do the digital transformation, we do the fundamentals, the online courses, and then I do it's like 2 hours that I do with all the people that are in that wave. And the first hour is spent on the why. So I go over the
Nice.
the 4 KCS principles, the trust, abundance, all of those, and give explicit examples about, how that fits into our plan. And one of the best examples that I do, and I actually got it from Michelle when I did KCS practices with her, is the body parts example. Michelle knows what I'm talking about there. And people just like, oh, yeah, that makes complete sense. So you make this list of body parts instead of having to think of them every time and not getting the same list. And anyway, so yeah, the first hour is on why, and then we do a break, and then the next is, okay, here's how you use our tool, here's where you click, here's the style guide, here's all of the specific things to us. So that's our training plan that we use. And so far it's been pretty successful.
That's great. That body parts exercise is such a good visceral way to understand, like, oh, these are words I know, right? Like, and I couldn't think of them off the top of my head, and maybe I should write things down. That's great. Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you. So here we have, when you log in after you purchase training, or if you're a member, you get a few seats per year included in your membership for your team. This is what you'll experience for our new learning center. This has everything loaded. You can see some things are in progress, but it's fairly simple and intuitive. But you can come in here and under My Learning, see everything that is available to you and click through. I'm not going to start the course because then it's going to start talking over us, but it's broken out into modules with details about how long each one's going to take, with progress indicators and links to contact us if you ever need help. And once you do complete something, you will see it in your completed. For the record, I failed this exam to test something. Of course, I would pass it. Wasn't expecting to show that I had failed an exam here. I promise I failed it on purpose to test something, but normally, most of you would see a happy green past here after you take an exam. Nice. And here it is, all our courses laid out in the new system, nice and pretty and easy to use. Lovely. What else? Any other questions? Comments? And well, while we have a couple extra minutes, a quick extra second, I do want to make sure everyone knows about our upcoming annual summit. You're going to see me share the Learning Center for a second, but let's go back here. Our annual summit is coming up in a couple weeks. It's so soon. It's less than a month. We'll be together in Atlanta. So if you haven't made your arrangements, come join us yet. We still have some room left and we'd love to see you there. If you can't join us in person for annual summit, we have lots of other upcoming events to join us virtually. One will be, of course, right after the summit. We always do a virtual recap that is free for anyone to pop into to hear anything they might have missed, and additional opportunities coming up here to join us for either presentations or our innovation labs where we get together for a couple days and really dive deep into some topics. And I definitely want to put this on your radar. We just published this option, our first KCS in Action Lab. This is kind of a meant to revisit the idea of the KCS World Tours that we had in person in the before times, and we want to see if we can replicate that a little bit online. So it'll be a 3-hour in-person or virtual event, a chance to really dig into some details about how to refresh or advance your KCS programs and hear from our members about how they actually are already using AI in production today to enhance their workflows. So this is going to be a great one if you're looking to strengthen your KCS programs. We'd love to see you online in June for that. Anything in the chat? I just see compliments in the chat. Thank you. We're proud of all of this. Thanks to our members. Okay, thanks everyone. We hope to see you at another event soon. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much to our featured guests. It was really lovely to hear your perspective, and congrats on all your milestones, everyone. And we'll see you at another event soon.